we've been given Jump Teostra for our next quest, which I don't mind doing personally. Jump Teostra, for those who are not familiar, is basically a super high damage Teostra, but his health is heavily reduced. So, there's two ways of looking at it. You could say that the standard Teostra is harder because the team has to survive for longer, therefore making Jump Teostra easier because the length of time that the team has to survive is much less, and therefore there's a higher chance of success. But you do need a certain amount of skill with the team in order to be able to survive for that long, because the damage of the monster that it deals, or rather the damage that the monster deals, is much higher. It's very easy to get one shot. As long as you're used to the movements of the monster, it's usually fine. I find that Teostra is something of a dance. There is a predictability to Teostra. And as long as you know how to do the dance, you should be able to fight him without getting hit. What makes you get hit in a Teostra fight? And this is probably the case with any monster that you're very familiar with in terms of its movements. What causes you to get hit is taking risks. If you know precisely what the monster's doing but you are still getting hit, it's because you're taking a risk. You're hoping that you'll be able to get a little bit of damage out, but then not have to suffer ramifications for the risk that you've taken. So, there you go. Apparently Gunzolino has not done this before. What I would ask is... apparently the bot knows that I'm streaming. Just to distract from the thought that I was trying to express there. Apparently... oh no, I see what he means. Greetail says bot knew he's streaming to refer to the the random hunt command. I thought that he was saying that the old bot that Eclipse Knight had organized to actually show Twitch streamers on Hunsterverse that are currently live was working. That would have been shocking. I don't know how I even assumed that that's what he meant, because that is just... the possibility of that is so remote and so fantastical that it's actually pretty embarrassing that I assumed that that's what he meant. But anyway, to get back to what I was saying, and this is a question, Gunzolino, what is your level of experience with Teostra? I ask this question because you need to be pretty familiar with how Teostra works to be able to survive Jump Teostra. It's because there's no margin for error. You need to be able to evade whatever he's going to do. So, when you say you haven't done this one before, I hope you're referring just to Jump Teostra, and not Teostra in general. Ugh. Although I don't think it's possible to get to G rank without having fought Teostra. Alright, let's give it a try. He reckons he can fight with Sword and Shield effectively enough. So what will I use then? What I'm going to use might be informed by what the rest of the team is using, but to inform myself of that I would have to join the room, so maybe I'll do that. Let's have a look and see what they're using. If they're using opportunity-based stuff like Hammer and Greatsword, I'll go Paralysis. I'll cheese the fuck out of this guy, I don't care. Sword and Shield, Greatsword, yeah, just even seeing one Greatsword there is enough to convince me that it's worth paralyzing him. It doesn't become a legit... so what it does is it prevents this from being a legitimate Jump Teo hunt, when I just paralyze him in place for most of it, but the temptation is too good to pass up. I do want a successful hunt because this is not just an example of me wanting to depart and then feel like I've achieved something by killing a monster while I'm live. It's actually going to be beneficial for all of us if we can succeed, because there is a really high chance of getting big Elder Dragon gems, or big Elder Dragon jewels, whatever they're called, from this hunt. Very high chance. So I will go and find the hunt. There it is. Emperor of Explosions. Now this is going to be a loadout for which I do need to prepare. I can't just depart without precisely what I need. Which is, I think, Nahabra Spines, weirdly enough. Or am I... no, I think it's... no, I'm being a complete idiot. It's Genprey Fangs. Of which I don't have many, interestingly enough. Let me... so it's Huskberry and Genprey Fang, is it? I could be wrong, it might actually be Bone Husk Gas. I think it's Bone Husk Gas. Which makes sense. Am I shooting... It's been a while. I need to see if I'm shooting Paralysis level 2. I think I'm shooting Paralysis level 2. What have we got? Yeah, that's Paralysis level 2. Let's see if I've got any shots in my box. I do. Oh, 43. Why do I have so many level 1? You know what? I'm just going to assume that it's Paralysis level 2 that I'm shooting. Maybe I'm shooting both. That would make sense, wouldn't it? But I don't have any memory of shooting both levels with this strategy. What do you think? I've specifically tried to get the weakest recoil, which tells me that I'm probably doing level 2. Yeah, that's probably what I'm doing. Forget that level 1 shit. Let's combine what I've got, and then I will need combo books, of which I have 3, which is insufficient for 100% success rate in combining these shots. Let's see what it is now. It is 100%. Maybe it was 100% before. Am I going crazy? Sorry, the only reason why I'm struggling here is because it's been just long enough since I last did this that I'm a little uncertain about my strategy, but this should be correct now. I think that's what I'm doing. I do need to buy some more Genprey Fangs. So what have we got here? We've got... Look, I would prefer to have more than one Greatsword user here, because when I'm constantly paralyzing this monster, obviously the weapon types that are going to benefit the most are Hammer and Greatsword, but fine. They will still need to survive whenever this monster is not paralyzed. So, I don't mind erring on the side of caution. Oh, that would be right. That is the ultimate fucking anticlimactic result. When you're spending all this time getting ready, and then there's just a communications error. It's not as bad, it's not as destructive as it could be, because at least I don't have to go and eat my food again. Hold on, it's an event quest. Frustratingly, everyone does have to take the time to rejoin the quest. Those who are stuck in the quest will have to let it load, or attempt to load for quite some time before they get the break off. So, oh well. It definitely wastes a bit of time, but at least Gonzalino and I aren't having to deal with that shit. I'm sure they would have realized pretty quickly. I can see we've got some friendship points going on in the bot commands channel. I wish I could show you the chat. I was explaining this at the beginning of the live stream, but I'm pretty sure there was an update to Discord, which has caused some sort of compatibility issue. Oh no, it's not a compatibility issue. You know what? I don't know whether I should blame Windows 10 or if I should blame OBS, but now it is an option. Like, Discord in general was not even an option, but now I can indeed share the chat, which is good. There's nothing really to show now, but the point is I can now show whatever is going on in the chat if it's necessary or helpful to do so. I might actually get a drink of water while we get organized here. I'll be back momentarily. I have returned. As I said, quite frustratingly, with event quests, it does take a long time to actually join them. You have to go through 2 rather long loading screens in order to be able to join up on it. I'm not sure what that's about, but it is the case, I think, with all of the PSP games. Alright. So, I have only departed with paralysis shots. Some of you might question why I haven't also brought some sort of damage shot. The reality is that I'm using the green shotgun. It has, in total, 205 inflated raw, which is pathetic. And furthermore, my function in this quest right now is not to deal damage on my own, it is to facilitate the dealing of damage by my team, which I will be able to do very effectively. So my skills are recoil reduction +2. I think the usefulness of that is pretty clear when I'm shooting, I think, the highest recoil shot type, except for perhaps, or maybe in addition to, cluster shot level 3. Very, very high recoil. This obviously is for DPS purposes. Guts, very helpful for this quest, and obviously capacity up is also very good for my DPS. Essentially, it's more useful for me to increase my DPS with this shot type than it is to try and increase my status effectiveness with status skills. These skills are really the best thing that I could hope for in terms of effectively paralyzing this monster constantly and consistently. Now, of course, paralysis shots do actually deal decent damage. So it is ideal to aim for... really should have allowed for the head to be in a better position there, but whatever. It would be ideal to hit the face, but I'm not going to run the risk of missing. Like, I'm not going to aim for the face while inviting the risk of missing entirely. Contributing towards flinches, I guess, would be the best that I could hope for with aiming for the face. Didn't need to shoot that extra shot, but that's alright. I do want everyone to aim for the face, but... well, actually, there's no but. That is the beginning and the end of it. One of the strangest aspects to this monster, which is specific to this monster I might add, is that he can regrow his horns. As most of you will know, when a monster sleeps, they do recover health. But for some reason, and I am minded to suggest that it is a Capcom glitch, I don't think they intended for this at all, but when this monster recovers HP, it actually recovers the HP of its broken monster parts. Because that's how it's done. That's actually how it's calculated. The parts of a monster that you break actually have HP, which you deplete when you hit it. And then obviously once that HP reaches 0, it breaks or gets severed or whatever is going on with that part. But when this monster recovers health during sleeping, it will actually recover, for example, the HP of its horns, which then results in its horns growing back. It's terrible. Now, is it overly cynical of me to assume that that was not intended by Capcom? Probably. But seriously, it's Capcom. You can't put it past them. It's definitely within their character to mess up really badly like that. Also, do consider that it is a DLC quest. It's like a bonus quest. Frustratingly, we did just lose a hunter. Not permanently, they haven't disconnected or anything, but we have lost a bit of our DPS. For probably the next 2.5 minutes or so, which is frustrating. I hate that, but it's not like it's going to result in failure or anything like that. It just means that it's going to reduce the length of time. Excuse me, increase the length of time that it will take for us to complete this quest. Now, when I do take a hit, It will effectively be a one-shot. Not effectively, actually. It will technically be a one-shot, but effectively I will survive because I have guts. And that will keep activating over and over and over again, which is very good. As long as I keep healing myself up, of course. There's a certain threshold that you have to surpass in order to survive using the Guts skill, in terms of total HP. If it's too low, then Guts won't help you. Looks like we just broke the horns, although on my screen no one was hitting the fucking horns, which is a bit weird. I'm glad that someone's bringing dragon damage. I hadn't even double-checked to see if someone was bringing dragon damage. It seems that Aurelian is the one with the dragon damage. I can see he's got the Azure/Pink Greatsword, which in my opinion is the best dragon greatsword in the game. But in the... I suppose there's a generality of opinion, sort of a collective opinion held by the rather sheep-esque Monster Hunter Freedom Unite community, which is that there is no legitimacy to the use of elemental greatswords. You should only use raw greatswords, which obviously leaves you with the King Atalat sword. Well, guess what? There is a difference between the most effective possible loadout and a loadout that is technically effective. It is still technically effective, within reason, to use an elemental greatsword if it's actually got good stats, and if it is suitable to the monster. You know, if you're using really high, let's say, dragon elemental damage on your greatsword, is it a monster with extremely high vulnerability to dragon, high weakness to dragon? Well, if it does, then it's going to be a suitable matchup with that monster. Is it going to be as technically effective as the fucking King Atalat sword and the Shengalren greatsword? Perhaps not, but it is still effective. And quite frankly, it's insulting to dissuade people from using something that is effective and instead tell them, oh, just use the thing that's most effective. Why would you use anything that's not the most effective? What happens when you do that is you put people into this little box. They become trapped in this little tunnel where they can only use a very select few weapons comfortably. When I say comfortably, I mean, you know, without fear of basically being rebuked in some way by the community. Oh, what? You're using elemental greatsword? What a meme, haha. As if we're just all going to run around with the same weapon. Now, I would understand if literally everything else were totally ineffectual, but that's not the situation, so... Yes, I do take exception to very sheep-like and totally... what's the best way to describe it without being extremely insulting? Let's just say that it's a community that lacks authenticity and originality. We'll just put it that way. And if I wanted to really double down on being offensive, that's probably the best way to describe the Japanese community on a more wide level. Because that exact behavior actually has its origins in the Japanese community. It's sort of spilled out. That's an excellent example of why I should be aiming for the face, by the way. When I said that I might actually see some benefit from flinching the monster by hitting the head, that is exactly what happened there. So that served as an excellent example of what I mean. These status shots do deal a decent amount of damage, so therefore they can be used for flinching purposes. And when you get a head flinch, it's very effective. Well, this is the thing, Peaberry. I don't know if you can sever his tail more than once. I'm going to assume that you can, because, you know, it depends if my theory is correct or not. Is it a recovery of HP for all monster parts, or is it just the head? It's hard to know. But that is the reason why the horns grow back. It is because the HP of the head is being recovered by the sleep. But I don't know if that's all parts of the monster. I don't know if the wings repair themselves. I don't know if the tail fucking regrows. I just don't know. I feel like that's an obvious thing that would have been tested by people. I'm going to tentatively suggest that it's not possible, because I haven't heard about it. And again, I think people would have tested that pretty early on, once they realized that the horns were fucking growing back. But, yeah. It is entirely possible. I wouldn't even begin to suggest that it's unlikely. Well, maybe I was suggesting that it's unlikely, but what I mean to say is that it's definitely possible. Is he coming here or is he going there? I guess he's going there. And very helpfully, we've been given a signal by Aurelian, as if I can't see that they are currently in combat. This is a very uncooperative Teostra. I'm not going to shoot any paralysis shots while he's in that. Which is quite a novel strategy for people who apply paralysis during hunts. Just think of how many times you've been in a hunt and someone's paralyzed the monster in the totally wrong place. Just somewhere where the hunters cannot even try, really, to hit the monster. You know, in the middle of a lava pool, somewhere just totally ridiculous. Well, that's because those people are taking a risk and they're not, you know, taking the principled decision to only apply their paralysis at a time when they would be happy for the monster to be paralyzed. The idea, of course, being that you can't always perfectly predict when the monster is going to be paralyzed. Maybe you had a lapse in concentration, and you didn't actually clock the fact that X number of paralysis shots had been applied to the monster in X amount of time. And consequently you've made a terrible, egregious error and allowed the monster to be paralyzed in the middle of a fucking lava pool, thus wasting all of the shots that you had shot between now and the last time that you paralyzed the monster. Of course, I paralyzed in that moment because the head was exposed, so definitely still worthwhile. Well, not just exposed. I suppose exposed is the wrong word. It was within reach. Hello, Potato. Should we all take a guess as to how quickly Potato is going to ask about the lack of a webcam? No. But yes, there is no webcam. And that's about all I have to say about it at this stage. I'm not going to give this Teostra the opportunity to grow its horns back because I'm going to assume that there is a wound reward for the head that is going to increase the chances of me getting a large Elder Dragon gem, so, or big Elder Dragon jewel, whatever they call it. So yeah. Is it technically possible for us to fail at this moment? Yes, because we have 2 deaths. It would be extremely frustrating. This monster is limping, evidently close to death. So really what everyone just needs to do is relax, wait for my paralysis, and not do anything stupid. Don't be a hero. That's the bottom line. The point, of course, being that there's not much margin for error. I think everyone here, except for me, or maybe inclusive of me because I do have guts, can take a hit at full health, but... like Aurelian, for example, if he had gotten hit there, that would have been it. That would have been the end of the hunt, because he had actually already taken damage there. And there we go. Nicely done. Well, the face attached to my glorious hair is not currently visible, and I'm glad that I've taken that decision because look, the natural lighting which I am required to use at this stage has been constantly changing. It's a very overcast day. Fire Dragon Jewel, I don't want that thing. But yeah, it's a very overcast day. It would have been very problematic to use my webcam today. It just would have looked like shit. It's just one of those situations where it's better not to have it at all than for me to be this almost imperceptible black figure. Just a profile. But yeah, as you can see, Gonzalino, this monster dies pretty quickly. That's not just because I'm using paralysis. I'd say, all things considered, we did fairly well because we had 2 instances where I was using paralysis and only 2 out of 3 people were dealing damage. Because we did have 2 deaths and those people had to make their way back to the monster. And there's a big Elder Dragon Jewel. Case in point. Pretty high chance of getting them. Now you do actually get 2 types of Pirate J ticket. The G one, I think, allows you to make the longsword, which by the way is truly terrible. It's just the most unbelievable insult that you would successfully get tickets from a quest like that, which is among the hardest quests in the game, to be honest. Except for perhaps when I'm using paralysis shots. And what you get in return is the following longsword. I'm going to show you it. I do use it occasionally. But it's unbelievable how bad it is. Now I could always be wrong, maybe it's not the G ticket. But this is it. Look at it. Look at it. Now maybe this is all gobbledygook to you. Maybe you don't know precisely what you're looking at. Let me try to give you an example, and the best way for me to give you an example is to equip it, and then you can have a top to bottom example. See the problem here? Yeah, don't use the Pirate J sword, okay? I get it, -20 affinity, you can fix that, can't you? Yes, you can. That's a big difference in damage. Big difference. Even with -20 affinity factored into it. Anyway, I do occasionally use it because it looks very cool. Check that out. But let's go and roll for a new quest. Looks like Greetail is lending a hand on the kitchen. I thought I'd just let you all read that. Gonna lend a hand on the kitchen. Thank you for the hunts. You're entirely welcome, my friend. I will let you help on the kitchen, and I'll ask if Chrysos wants to play it, because I haven't played with this guy in ages. Now, it becomes less like a command if I smile when I do it. But he did say, "Oh no, my room's full." When I say my, I mean literally mine. That's not what he said. He said, "Oh, Doomlink's room's full." He's gonna be here momentarily. So our next hunt is Arena of Blood and Tears. It is Green Plesioth, Red Kezu, Emerald Kongolala, and Terra Shogun Seattle. That's going to be a pretty easy quest, I think, because I think it's 1 at a time. If it's 2 at a time, then it will be an Arena of Blood and Tears. If it's just 1 at a time, it'll be an arena of, I don't know, dozing off and passing out, because it will be boring. But that's alright. I don't mind. It's interesting in that there will be quite a few monsters for us to find, like different ones to find. Let me see if there's a common elemental weakness here. Green Plesioth, Red Kezu, Emerald Kongolala, Terra Shogun. Ugh. Not really. I mean, there might be, but I don't think it's a good one. So I'm going to use poison, probably. What's a fun poison weapon? I know. I definitely know what would be a fun poison weapon. Where is it? Poison King. Now that's a name for a weapon. I should actually double check. I think it was 460 poison, which is good. You want a really high value for a greatsword, because obviously you're not going to be making physical contact with the monster quite as often with a greatsword as you would be with, I don't know, dual blades or a sword and shield. So they have a pretty high value for most status greatswords, consequently. Alright. Think I'm happy with this loadout. Not the fucking high rank quests, please. Is this a DLC quest? I need to double check that. Oh, what I was saying before was that it's possible that I was wrong about the Pirate J tickets. It could be that the G tickets are used to make the Pirate J cannon, and then the standard tickets are used for the longsword. Either way, it does not actually change the fact that that longsword is shit. So I just thought that we would all benefit from that further clarification. Looks similar to that quest actually, but it's not that one. Oh yeah, I was supposed to double check to see if it was DLC or not. It is DLC, so I will go and find it. Nope. There it is. I'm ready to use some greatsword. I don't use greatsword enough, do I? In this game, or at least not while I'm recording. I do realize that. What am I missing in... Oh, definitely an ancient potion. Need to get that. That's not in anticipation of requiring one. For the next hunt, it's in anticipation of requiring one at some point. And I want it to be there when I need it. Looks like we've got paralysis, poison, raw damage, and raw damage. No element to speak of today. Which makes sense given that it's a rather varied monster lineup. Oh, that's the sound of my chair. My lovely, creaky, ergonomic chair. You'd think that quite an essential part to a chair design would be to make it so that it doesn't go. But apparently that design choice, or that design consideration, never entered the minds of the people who made this chair. I don't know what that's about, but I'll give you something for free, and that is the following nugget of information. This chair was fucking expensive, and yet it makes noises like that. Not sure what it's all about. It has something to do with the ergonomic chair. I don't know. The world of ergonomic chairs. Ow. Because I was basically told that it's not that unusual for a person to spend a whole lot of money on an ergonomic chair, and then it makes terrible noises, for example. Or for it to have some other issues. They get the ergonomic part right, and then they just fuck up everything else, I guess. So much technology has to go into the ergonomics that you just have to let everything else suffer. This is one of those rare examples where I'm quite happy to make full use of Art of Unsheathing, which is to say more explicitly that I'm going to be sheathing after every attack, because I don't have that many opportunities to hit this guy. Some people will quite religiously sheathe their weapon every time they get an attack out when they have Art of Unsheathing. I get it. It might be an entirely valid strategy. In fact, I'm almost certain that it is. It's just, to me, a little bit too... it feels like you're greeding for the damage. When I say greeding for it, I mean that you're almost compromising your experience with the greatsword just to get that damage. Sort of takes the fun out of it. That's the way I look at it. I like to go for DPS more than just greeding for critical hits. But like I said, I'm not going to be able to get good DPS if I were to avoid that strategy while fighting this monster, I don't think, so... I have yet to actually get a single poison attack out, which is a bit sad. I'm not anticipating a successful poison anytime soon. There we go. Yes, I'm really glad that they gave us the map in the supply box. I would have been totally lost without it. I do like to have the map on the screen, though. Silly as it is. At the end of the day, if I need the space, I can just remove the map. Oh, moonwalk. That's the thing. The moonwalk almost... It breeds a sort of uncertainty in one's mind. He's gearing up for something, but what? That is the question. Oh, unfortunately I did have a little bit of extra hit lag there, which messed up my follow-up attack. I did not actually succeed in getting a poison there, which is what I expected, but that's alright. It's not that alright, because I did intend to use this weapon to poison monsters, but anyway. Is what it is. To me, it would make sense if applying... Well, see, I don't want to use that word, applying, because in the past, and even during this recording, I've considered using the word applying a status in order to mean that the monster is suffering the effects of the status. So I think the best way to describe it is building up the status. So if your weapon effectively gets that status proc, that visual effect, it means it is building up the status, and then if you apply the status, that is when it reaches the threshold where it will actually affect the monster. So I'm just trying to keep my terminology consistent so that you know what in the precise fuck I'm talking about. Oh yes, this is very important. You all must watch what happens here. Look at him go! Yeah. That is a fucking entrance. Honestly, that's what makes these quests worth it. Kezu in the water arena. I can't remember what it's called. I'm calling it a water arena because I don't remember what they call it right now, but it's not called the water arena. Let's have a look. What is it say? It's not gonna tell me. That's alright. What was I saying? I was making some sort of profound pronouncement about something, and now I can't even remember what it is. Must have been really important. Oh yeah, I was going to say, it would be nice if, while you build up your status, it does deal just a little bit of damage to recognize that you've contributed to building up the status, right? Like, I'm not talking elemental damage sort of numbers here, because then it would no longer be distinct from elemental damage, would it? The whole idea of paralysis is that you build it up. Same with poison and sleep, of course. The whole idea is that you build it up and then it will cause an effect to take place. But I'd like it if they maybe reduced that duration of the effect and then tacked on just a tiny little bit of damage when you're building up the status. I just like the idea of it. That's just me. It might not even be a good implementation design-wise because you wouldn't even see it, would you? I suppose you'd see it if it noticeably and substantially reduced the duration of what you finally built up towards, but then I'm sure people would take issue with that. Or just to make someone like me happy. We're going to reduce the duration of these effects. It's probably not a good implementation, is it? Not a good improvement to make. Or rather, it is debatable as to whether or not it's an improvement at all. Yes, the moat arena, that's right. Yeah, I remembered that it had a specific name, it's just that it totally slipped my mind. It's because you can't really call it a water arena when there's so much land. But yeah, it's the moat arena. I just think it's really funny that they make the entrance for land-based monsters so far away from the actual confrontation area that they have to jump that far. What other monsters have to do that jump? There must be funnier ones than Kezu, but Kezu is definitely the funniest that I've seen. What else have we got? Emerald Congalala? See, that's not funny. Emerald Congalala does that anyway. That's how he moves from area to area. He just jumps really far from where he is to where he's going. So it's not going to be as funny to watch an Emerald Congalala do this, but Kezu, that's really funny. What other monsters do you think would appear in the moat arena that would do that jump? There he goes. That is still kind of funny, isn't it? Fuck you, you green monkey. Ugh. Apparently I'm forgetting how Tremor with the monkeys works. That sounds like a fun band name. Tremor with the Monkeys. Very creative. As for what it means, I couldn't even imagine. What sort of idea am I trying to get across with the phrase Tremor with the Monkeys? It would make more sense, I think it would make more sense to say Tremble with the Monkeys. I think that's actually what I had in my head. So Tremor with the Monkeys doesn't... That's just weird. What, are you experiencing an earthquake in the presence of a group of monkeys? Is that what's going on? Tremble with the Monkeys sounds pretty funny. In that it's really abstract. It makes you question what the fuck is going on. You know, tremble with the monkeys. Why are the monkeys trembling and why are you trembling? That is the question. Maybe you're in Hokkaido and you're hanging out with those snow monkeys and the hot spring has dried up. I don't know. I don't really know what I'm trying to illustrate for you all right now, but yeah, something to do with snow monkeys in Hokkaido. There's actually a beer that has those snow monkeys on it. It's called Yoyogi, I think. Don't quote me on that. I think it's called Yoyogi. And it's not very good. Well, it's because it's a pale ale. I don't like pale ales. That's probably the main reason why I don't like it. As far as pale ales go, maybe it's okay. I don't know. It was very nice of you, Aurelian, to deodorize me in that moment. And now I've got 10 mega potions again. Because the natural lighting has decreased so much, I actually feel like I'm sitting in the dark, so I'm going to raise my blind a little bit. Yeah, it's become really, really dark. The point, of course, being that this is not for your benefit that I'm doing that. It's so that I don't feel like I'm sitting in the dark. I don't want anyone watching thinking, is Doomlink supposed to have his webcam visible? What's going on? No, it's just for me. It's not for you. Because it's a little, I don't know, some people might like sitting in the dark. I've found that you do actually almost have a subsection of, what are they called? Netizens? I've heard that phrase, netizen. Ugh, it makes me shudder. People on the internet. Some people like to just sit in the dark when they're playing video games or browsing the web, I don't know. What's that about? I don't like that at all. I like to be able to see what I'm doing. Yes, I can touch type, but I hate sitting in the dark. It just bothers me. It feels like I can't see my surroundings. I'm not afraid of the dark, but it just doesn't... You know, when I have the option to not be in the dark, why would I be in the dark? That's the way I would look at it. I say that because a good friend of mine actually almost exclusively exists on his computer in the dark. I shouldn't say that. he does a lot of things that do not involve being on his computer, but whenever he is at home, on his computer, the lights are off. Night or day. And I don't understand that. It's very strange. But, you know. Different something for different folks. I can't remember the word that rhymes with folks in that phrase, so the question then arises, inevitably, why did I even bother saying it, if I couldn't remember the phrase? Or the saying? I'm not going to sharpen up. This thing's probably going to die very soon. At least I was able to finish the sentence before it happened. Alright, I didn't even need a potion there, so... yeah, different strokes for different folks, that's it. Queen is excited by our success. It's good to hunt with Chrysos. I don't remember the last time I hunted with him, actually. It may have technically been recently, but it would have been like one hunt, and that had been the first time in a long time, if not the first time. I just know that he knows my live streams or has seen me, and so he's like a person in the chat who knows. I feel like any person who watches me live that I run into in the Hunsterverse chat automatically knows me better than most people who would only know me from the Hunsterverse chat. It's fairly obvious why I would feel that way. It's because these are people who have listened to me crap on about things for hours at a time. Those people would inevitably know me better than the people who've only just seen me type in Hunsterverse. So yeah, that's how I view those people. A person who knows me quite a bit better than the average person. Arena of Blood and Tears, it wasn't that bad. The reason being that we were fighting the monsters one at a time. And I suppose it was a little unfair of me to suggest that it would somehow be boring if it was one at a time. I guess what I really meant was that it was unlikely to challenge us very much. And quite obviously that's how things played out. It wasn't much of a challenge. Let's see our next quest. Random hunt. It is going to be Yaungaruga, Howling at the Moon. Is that just a standard Yaungaruga? I'm tempted to put the one-ear Yaungaruga up. Let's have a look and see if he's in the event quest list. He must be there, right? Or is one-ear Yaungaruga actually accessible as a normal quest in G-Rank? I don't remember now. But I do want to do one ear Yaungaruga. It just doesn't feel right to do a single Yaungaruga and have it be a normal one. Where is he? Maybe Howling at the Moon is one ear, but I don't think it would be. Maybe it's offline only. Howling at the Moon. No, I would doubt it. I'd say that's just the standard one. To Yaungaruga. Well, I'm just going to assume that you can't access one ear Yaungaruga online at all. The reason why I wasn't sure is because you can actually fight a G-Rank Demon King Diablos through the DLC of this game. He does exist in the Japanese DLC, I think. And so... I thought perhaps one ear Yaungaruga would have received the same treatment, the same sort of attention that Demon King did, because ordinarily he would be offline only. But unless I am effectively blind, I was unable to see a single Yaungaruga hunt in the event quest list. I keep going back and forth between saying DLC and event quest. I prefer to say event because I think it says event in the quest list there, and it just doesn't feel right to call it DLC. It is, by definition, downloadable content, but it just seems a little bit disconnected from the game itself. I feel like Event Quest is a very Monster Hunter specific kind of terminology. And if there's ever an option to use terminology that is Monster Hunter specific, I like to use that. It feels more meaningful, don't you think? Alright. So, Yangaruga. Something water-based. Maybe a lance. But then I just visualized hunting a Yangaruga with a lance and immediately could feel the temptation to physically cringe. Let's do it. I realized that if that's making me physically cringe, I need to take on the challenge, not shy away from it. Seriously. I shouldn't be worried or in any way fearful of a Yangaruga at this stage in my hunting career. I think the reason why is because I'm imagining a first-gen Yangaruga. It changes you, it really does. If you experience first-gen Yangaruga, you will not look at that monster in the same way ever again. I'd guarantee it. And if you started in first-gen, well, I'm sure you look at the subsequent versions of Yangaruga in a very different way as well. Well, in a different way to your average person. I'm using Aquarius, which is actually a pretty cool looking lance. It's a very effective one as well. Now that's something I don't see very often. A Hypnoc weapon. I remember when I first played this game, long time ago. I did actually make a Hypnoc weapon just because I wanted, you know, a weapon that was forged with the materials of the monster that I had most recently killed, in pursuit of the highest possible damage that I could get at that time. I wasn't interested in the sleep status. I just wanted something that was high rarity, you know. I seem to recall that the first upgrade might have been rarity 6, maybe? With the understanding, of course, that Hypnoc was actually a Necot quest. This is one ear. Look at him. It's one ear Yangaruga. After all my monologuing about him being offline only, here he is. So if you want to fight just a normal Yangaruga, you actually have to do the... Well, that's not much damage, is it? Do you think this is one ear, or did we just break the fucking head extremely quickly? I don't think it's possible for us to have broken it that fast. I struggle to imagine that. See, there was no real need for me to be so concerned about using a lance against this monster. I just need to fucking play properly. That's the idea. That's the solution, isn't it? Oh my god. I'm shielding where helpful, and I'm evading where helpful. I'm trying to get a balanced strategy there. If I'm using evade extender, or evade distance increase, whatever you call it in this game, it's not really going to be helpful when I'm dealing with a monster roar, but of course it is very helpful when you're trying to physically get away from the monster. Or to close the distance quickly as well, like so. And then I just end up on my hands and knees again because it's this game. I swear I just heard a power tool outside, which would be really ironic after having previously discussed the fact that Bob the Builder is not going to be reappearing now that I've moved. I mean, obviously he's not where I was last living, but in fact the residence before that. But I think I just heard the sound of a power tool. It's making me, you know, I'm seeing flashbacks of Vietnam sort of thing. That's the effect hearing a power tool while I'm live has on me. Maybe it was Yangaruga. And I thought I was hearing like a power tool. It sounded like a drill of some kind gearing up. Do you know why I dropped my guard there? It's because I thought that I'd be able to hop back fast enough, but all I managed to achieve there was just getting hit really stupidly. Yeah, Mega Bob PTSD right now. That made it sound as if I was referring to him as Mega Bob, which would be funny but also excessively complimentary. Unless I'm calling him a mega annoyance. Or something like that. Or the evolved form of the irritant that he was. I love constantly being on my hands and knees when I am instead attempting to thrust my lance. Put that on a shirt. You don't even have to credit me with that one. I'm feeling generous today. See, I don't trust him when he fucking scratches the ground like that. I feel like he's going to snap into some animation unexpectedly. Oh, see what I mean? Well, that's not quite what I was describing there. He didn't scratch the ground first, but I suppose what I was really trying to draw your attention to was the fact that this monster tends to do things suddenly and without warning, which was a rather redundant explanation of the way this monster moves, but anyway. Suddenly and without warning, yes. I don't think that he flies back and goes immediately into a tail swing in this game. He might do, but I don't have any specific recollection of it. It sounds a little advanced for this monster for Free Me Know. So I don't think he does that. But that was a pretty scary attack in 4th gen. He poor bastard. Yeah, get back on the ground. You prehistoric looking thing. I'm trying to remember the name of that prehistoric bird. What was it? Gastornis, I think? Yeah. You fucking Gastornis looking thing. That is not how you spell leather, but I guess when you have a limited number of characters that you can use in your translation, you have to settle for literally spelling the word leather wrong. Hello, Night Raid. Apparently I'm not keeping track of the movements of this monster, and I'm not the only one. I think we all thought he was going in this direction. Or maybe we didn't. Maybe everyone except me knew precisely where he was, it's just that they were taking the same route as I were. Oh, for fuck's sake, where are you going? Is he going to where we just were, or is he going this way? He is going this way. Or is he not? He's still flying. He hasn't stopped. I bet he's going to go this way. I guarantee it. What a little bastard. Night Raid says, "Hello there, is this Madness's server?" Who the fuck is Madness? Are you prompting me to make a reference to 300, which would be terribly out of date? Some people probably don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. Anyway, where is the monster? Apparently, Quinn is unperturbed by this monster's constant flying. Knows precisely where to find it. And is not leading the team astray as I am. I think I want to go this way. Do I want to go this way? I know where Quinn is, I just don't know the quickest route to get there. But no, this is not Madness's server. This is called Hunsterverse. It's better than Madness's server. I don't know who Madness is, and I don't know anything about his server, but I can, with some considerable confidence, assure you that this is better. Hard to imagine, I know. There you go. It's hard to really call this one-ear Yeon Garuga, but that's what it looked like. Because he only had one ear from the start of the hunt. but it felt like a normal Garuga, so I'm really confused. Whatever. I'm doing very well. I'm playing Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, and I'm having fun. That's the situation. But yeah, I don't know if it is one ear. Should I... Do you know what? Let's Google search it. Because I'm officially confused. Because that did not feel like a difficult Eon Garuga. It felt like a normal Eon Garuga, which could possibly be referred to as a difficult Eon Garuga, but I mean a particularly difficult one. That's my point. Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. One ear Garuga. Let's see what we get. No. Okay. So I typed one ear Eon Garuga. My first hit was, where can I find Garuga ears? Which was obviously unavailing, not helpful at all. And then I found the second hit, which says, one ear Garuga? What the fuck? That's pretty funny. It is, of course, game facts. Game FAQs, however you want to say that. This guy has written a fucking treatise about one ear Eon Garuga. Which... seriously, it starts to get into some serious detail. This gun can take out an Azure Wrath Elder in like 35 shots. I shot 180 pellet shots, level 1 to 3, sleep bombed it twice, and used like 40 level 2 normal shots before I died for the third time. It goes on, by the way, and I'm not going to continue it, but seriously, like, what I want is to know if this is even a one-ear Eon Garuga. And this guy's getting into some serious detail. They're about his own personal experience hunting this monster, which I'm sure is leading to something of profound worth, but anyway. I want to comment on the fact that it's currently raining outside, and that's kind of cozy. Feels good to be able to sit here while it's raining outside, and I don't have to worry about my lighting taking a dive. I'd love a live stream of you reading old Monster Hunter game facts. That would actually be pretty funny, because some of them are... there's a lot of entertainment value in some of those, for sure. You don't remember a second-eared Garuga in Freedom Unite? What do you mean? What do you mean? You mean to say you've never come across a young Garuga in Freedom Unite that had both of its ears? Is that what you mean? Or are you just trying to say one-eared young Garuga? Is that... I don't mean to laugh at you, I felt that was quite funny. Yeah, if you mean one-eared Garuga, they do exist. There's definitely one offline. But, yeah. Alright, we ended up rolling an interesting enough quest. It's, I believe, an epic hunt. It has a special quest requirement. Actually, no. This is something that has been generated by the random hunts bot. What has it given us? It says, everyone post their quest end screen in chat. What? So, the special quest requirement, as determined, as stipulated by the Random Hunts quest system in Hunsterverse, is that everyone needs to post a screenshot of their quest end screen. Why? What exactly is that contributing to the experience of playing the game? How is that in any way helpful? Like, what am I getting out of that? I'm sorry. If it sounds like I have an axe to grind, it's because I do. I hate the way the random hunt system has been designed in Hunsterverse, but anyway. I'm not going to get into details about that again. I'm sure you're all really sick of that. So, common elemental weakness, it's Hypnoc, Emerald Kongolala, and Nagakuga. I'm going to say fire. Let's just go with a fire weapon. Even if Emerald Kongolala is not particularly weak to fire, I'm bringing a fucking fire weapon. And I'm actually going to use a sword and shield. Because it sounds like a fun choice. It's really raining outside. I've actually been enjoying the weather recently. It's been a very rainy Christmas. Those of you who live in the northern hemisphere will find this quite strange, but Christmas is in the middle of summer for those of us in the southern hemisphere, and it can lead to all sorts of weather that is anything but snowy. And wait, I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. Yeah, there's none of that going on over here, ladies and gentlemen. So, it's either fucking stinking hot, which is great for the beach. That's what the Brazilians like, apparently. They go to the beach. Well, at least for New Year's, that's what I've been told. I'm not knocking the Brazilians, I'm just saying that's what I've been told by Brazilians. They go to the beach for New Year's, which may very well also include Christmas. What I do know is that Brazilians like the beach. But, yeah, but they're in the northern hemisphere, so that... What, are they shivering at the beach on New Year's? What's going on? Anyway, oh, no, I just realised that their climate is likely to still be kind of warm at that time of year. Anyway, let's ignore that point. What I'm trying to say is that it can be either extremely hot on Christmas Day, or we could be enduring some sort of tropical storm, which apparently is I shouldn't call it a storm. There is supposed to be a thunderstorm on December 25th in Sydney, which is exciting. It is currently raining. It is the 24th of December at this time. It is, in fact, just to be even more specific, painstakingly specific, it is 12:48 PM on the 24th of December, where I am now. This is an epic hunt. I think it's here. Save the Great Forest Town. That's right, I remember commenting on this last time. And I will show you, just to properly illustrate what I'm saying. The quest is actually called Save the Great Forest Town, but it's been written up as Save the Great Forest Towns. Yeah, there's just so many of them. All of them will benefit from the completion of this quest that we are about to embark upon. Fucking hell. It's a strange thing to get so hung up about. I get that. But it's also very funny. I'll be back in just a moment. It's raining really hard. I just want to make sure that I haven't left any windows open. I'd rather not be doing my live stream underwater. I'll be back in a moment. Actually, do you know what I'll do? I'll depart on this quest first, just so that I don't waylay the team in the... Ooh. Oh, I see. Chrysos is probably watching me live, and but the reality is no one's going to depart on the quest without me wanting them to depart, because I am the quest host. There's no risk of that. I will promptly mute Discord. I do realise that it just made a sound. I don't want it to make a sound. Alright. I ended up in the secret area. This happens so infrequently. I would guarantee that there is a large percentage of you watching who have never seen the Great Forest secret area. Well, this is it. It's pretty cool. In that it's just very different. You don't often see it. Anyway, I will be back momentarily to just confirm that nothing is getting unreasonably wet. That was probably a good call. The sliding door to my balcony was wide open. No water was coming in, but if the angle of the rain were unfavourable in any sort of way, well, let's just say electronics would be getting wet. Well, maybe not. Well, look, my router... someone's gonna pipe up in the Twitch chat. How could you possibly conceive of placing electronics anywhere remotely near your balcony sliding door? Well, this is the situation. It is near to it, but unlikely to get wet even if water came in. I'm just saying it's nearby, and I don't like the idea of it getting wet. Don't worry, there's no risk of that. Not anymore. Unless the glass blows in, which would be an entirely separate issue. How do I get out of here? I've forgotten now. I think I jumped down somewhere. I think it's here. No. I have been here so infrequently. I think it's here. I think I jumped down here. Yeah. Pretty cool, yeah. I don't have any pickaxes, so I can't do any mining. Actually, I did absolutely nothing with my inventory between the completion of the last quest and the beginning of this one. Hello, Wonderlord. This quest is going to be fucking over by the time I get there. I'm assuming Hypnoc has been killed, because no one's in combat. Which means that we will begin with the Emerald Kongolala. Ironically, I'm actually benefiting from these Mega Potions even though I haven't engaged a monster in combat yet. And a Merry Christmas to you as well, Wonderlord. I'm not much of a Christmas person, and let me tell you, the way people are so aggressively shoving the spirit of Christmas down each other's throats these days really makes me less warm to Christmas than I ever have been in my life. Have you guys noticed that? Have you noticed with every single year that passes, everyone's just that bit more desperate? I suppose it depends on how you interpret it. To me, it's almost like a desperation. They're so desperate to be happy and to be enjoying Christmas. Maybe I'm just extremely cynical about it. But it's gone from just a willingness or an inclination to enjoy Christmas to a sort of desperation. Feels like I get swept up in it. Unwillingly. Under duress. Anyway. That's the way I feel about it. We've already got a poisoned Kongolala, poor fella. You'd think, hold on. This is a really important question, and for some reason, I have never even thought to ask this question before. But wouldn't it make sense for Kongolala to have high resistance to poison if he eats mushrooms all the time? It's a staple of his diet. So you would imagine that he'd be pretty resistant to poisons and toxins, just in general. I am now airborne as a result of an explosive fart. But, yeah, surely he would... Okay. Even monsters with high poison resistance can be poisoned. They just won't take much damage from it. But you see, he became poisoned so quickly, it makes me think that he doesn't have any particular resistance to poison. That's all I'm going based off at the moment. I have no knowledge of his poison resistance, as, hopefully, can be extrapolated from my question, but... Yeah, there goes Aurelian again. He's beating on everyone, myself included. I do have to include myself in that. Because... I smell. And that's the beginning and the end of that. But seriously, if ever you were to have a monster that were resistant to poison, you would think, aside from the ones that are obviously poison-focused monsters, where they themselves have the ability to poison you through, like, I don't know, a poison breath or some sort of poison excretion, such as Gravios. You know, aside from obvious monsters like those, this really is the monster that you would expect to have a resistance to it. But anyway. Well, you see, Wonderlord, what you just described, and what he said in the chat, for those who can't read the chat, which is everyone in the VOD, excuse me, everyone watching the VOD, he said, Devil Joe's second weakness is dragon. I'm actually going to amend that to say that his primary weakness is dragon. But the point that he's making is that he's weak to his own element. But I believe that dragon is an exception. You know, specifically, dragon is like that. Monsters that will have dragon element are in fact weak to dragon. It's a convention of the dragon element. Lore-wise. Do I have an explanation for it? No, I don't. I mean, I could seek to explain it. I could make an attempt. Probably has something to do with elder dragons. But, well, that was actually really unhelpful. Instead of explaining it, I said it had something to do with elder dragons, which might be a perfect example of explaining precisely nothing. So, yeah, I'll just say that I haven't made the attempt. But, yeah, it's specific to dragon element. That's what it does. That's how it works. So, you know, I don't think that it works in this case to say that there would be any logic in a monster that consumes mushrooms, a percentage of which must be poisonous. I mean, unless he can pick out the non-poisonous ones, that's another good point. If his staple, or if a staple of his diet is mushrooms, then you would imagine that he'd be able to identify the ones that would be, you know, poisonous. So maybe he wouldn't have a resistance. But still, having said that, I feel like if his staple, or rather if a big part of his diet is mushrooms, it would make sense for him to develop a resistance so that he can eat more of them, right? So he's not going to have the same sort of resistance to the toxin of a mushroom as, say, a human being would, and therefore using his evolutionary, I don't know, expertise in identifying mushrooms will then avoid exactly the same sort of mushrooms that a human being would avoid. I mean, come on. Have you seen the way this guy farts? He's not like us. I'll put it that way, he's not like us. So I think, look, no matter what, I've even tried to play devil's advocate with this one. I think it would stand to reason that an Emerald Congalala would have high poison resistance. The question is, does he? Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, I'm not sure. He's like my brother, says Wonderlord. I see. Are we going to hear about an anecdote of you flying through the air after one of your brother's farts erupted unexpectedly in your proximity, your close proximity, or in close proximity to you? I think I can live without a story like that. It's a bit off-putting. For anyone eating while watching the live stream, I do apologise for putting you off your food. Might be putting you off your Christmas lunch, although, no, probably not. I keep forgetting that I'm actually ahead of everyone else in the world. Not literally everyone else, but the majority of people in the world, I am ahead of them. I will be celebrating Christmas before any of you. Or, let's just assume, all of you watching. So yeah, it's unlikely that anyone's having their actual Christmas lunch spoiled as we speak. Unless they, I don't know, have an extraterrestrial place of residence. Well, that was a successful hunt. I would say. It was pretty quick. I didn't contribute in quite the same way as everyone else did, because I only attacked 2 of 3 monsters. The rain has passed, by the way, which annoys me. I hate it when that happens. I've been really enjoying this week because we had, I think, 3 solid days just about of rain. Definitely 2. Yeah, I think it was just 2 solid days of rain. And when I say solid, I mean, for all intents and purposes, it started raining and then didn't stop for 2 days. And yeah, it was fun. Made me feel like I was living in the UK or something. Now, admittedly, I don't think I would like it raining all the time, mainly because, you know, surely everything's going to get really moldy and gross, and, you know, moisture is not a good thing to be a constant that you're dealing with. I just don't like the idea of mold in general. And I think mold is a big problem in the UK for fairly obvious reasons. It's always cold and wet. And as much as I love that environmentally, I don't think I want that in my household. And I think you just have to deal with that if you live in that country. Aurelian is waving, so I guess that means he's leaving us. A message from Aurelian. 3 AM here. I'll be leaving the Gathering Hub. Thanks for the hunts. Also discovered your stream, and was listening to it in the background. Good fun. Well, I'm also glad you discovered my stream. Thanks for joining in. Let's continue, however. RH Random Hunt. That was probably unkind of me to read that as discovered. It was only one letter out. Just a simple typo. Nothing more. It wasn't quite like the other comment that was made. What was it again? It was quite funny. It was... I'm sure I can find it. How far am I having to scroll? I don't know. Let's have a look. Is it here? Where? Where? I swear it was... Well, I suppose not. I'm going to give myself another 3 seconds to be able to find it. Nope. Nope, couldn't find it. Oh well. It was another... It was basically not a typo, it was just a complete failure to correctly type a word. That's what I remember. I mean, you could technically say that typos are also a failure to type a word, but this was a little bit more than that. Wonderlord asks, what's up with the face cam? Is something messed up? Yeah, there is a complete lack of that, isn't there? The only thing that's messed up is my lighting circumstances. I am, instead of dealing with my lighting circumstances, which are, by the way, pretty much unworkable, instead of dealing with that, I am just not having a webcam view at all. It's not going to be a permanent situation, like it's not going to be like that forever. I will have my camera view again, but I actually kind of like just having me and my voice. Sorry, just having my voice and the game. Me and my voice. Yeah, right. Just having the game and my voice I actually think is kind of nice, but it's a nice change. I feel like I have a bit more of a... It's an almost nostalgic relationship now with the visual content and the commentary, because just the way I'm conducting the commentary feels more like how I would have done a Let's Play in the past. It's nice. Slightly more constant, I guess. Anyway, let's have a look and see what the hunt was that was selected for us. It was Blue Yeon Kutku, Green Plesioth, and Plum Daimyo Hermital. The special quest requirement, this is the last time I'm going to read these. It says, anyone not assigned a weapon must use a raw weapon. What is that supposed to mean? Because, anyway, I'm not even going to go there. I actually have a fairly long response to that, and just realised that it's not worth it at all. Oh, okay. I got an interesting question from Wonderlord. I will read it once. Well, it's not a super profound question, it's just a question that warrants some kind of response. I think it's worthwhile. It's because I haven't actually voiced my opinions on Monster Hunter Wilds yet on camera, so I suppose I will do that once I set up for this quest. Common elemental weakness? Blue Yeon Kutku, Green Plesioth, Plum Daimyo Hermital? Not really, no. So, what are we going to do? Poison again? Let's keep it simple. Let's use this loadout. Have I eaten? Yes, I have. Let's go and return to the room. I actually don't know if we've got a decent team to work with right now. I do know that we've lost at least one person, but it does sometimes happen that when you lose one person, you can actually lose more than one. Is it this one? No. Could also be a DLC, I didn't double check. I'm going to look now. No, it's not. It's called Subspecies 3. That must mean it's in HR7. There we go. Found the quest. I'm going to advertise the room once again, just to let everyone know that there is a room going on, and that I would like to have a full group of people. Oh, Gonzalino, I think, is still hunting, yes. Don't know how I forgot that he was the person that we were still missing. I'm always bad at keeping track of who's in the room. I think it's because I've got so many other things that I'm thinking about and focusing on aside from the people who are in the room. Although in the case of Gonzalino, I really shouldn't be forgetting about the fact that he's here, he's watching me live. Anyway, the comment made, or the question asked by Wonderlord in the chat, is how do you feel about the Monster Hunter Wilds trailer? I know your relationship with 5th gen, but do you think the 6th gen will potentially change positively? I haven't heard your opinion yet, but I do know your gripes with 5th gen. I think it's interesting. Let me actually find my immediate reaction that I typed up. It wasn't like a really large comprehensive written reaction, but I just want to read what I said. Okay, so what I wrote was, And this was not intended to be any sort of review or, you know, some kind of scintillating review of... I already said review, didn't I? Some kind of... It was just a comment, passing comment. I said, Capcom aggressively competing with themselves on how to make the shittest Monster Hunter name. World was bad, but made sense. Rise was bad, and didn't make sense. Wilds is what my toddler would have come up with if I had a toddler. Anyway, I also said, this game makes it more clear than ever that generational naming is dead for the series. I focused a little bit on the name here, and I don't really blame myself for it. I said, can we just take into account the fact that Zelda's first open-world game was called Breath of the Wild, and now, like 7 years later, Capcom is calling their first open-world Monster Hunter game Wilds? This smacks of pretty desperate marketing. But, yeah. I think someone, not just being contrarian for the sake of it, I think, disagreed with what I said. This is, by the way, in my server. This is where I'm reading it from. I said, they've lost their sense of direction, so they're doing an overhaul. And open world is the most obvious overhaul to make for a series like this. Of course, Ethan and I thought that would be a good idea. So that idea I'm not concerned with. I said, however, that the choice of Wilds is more like a desperate attempt to cash in on the success of Breath of the Wild by using a word that is associated with open world, but is also one of the most successful games of the 2010s. You know, that's rather my point. It's not that, you know, they're somehow trying to copy Breath of the Wild. It's not about that. It's that it is one of the most successful games, so to actually lift the same word that they use to describe open world and then shove it into Monster Hunter does feel like a very deliberate marketing decision, which to me, it's a little bit beneath the dignity of Capcom, or rather it should be beneath Capcom's dignity to do that. I rephrased that because I think Capcom are utterly bereft of respectability. I think they... And that was because of what they did in Monster Hunter Rise. That's a whole different conversation. The interaction between Capcom and its player base in the creation of Monster Hunter Rise was one of the most insulting things I've seen a game company do with a game release. But, you know, that doesn't mean that they are automatically going to lower the standard even further, but... Yeah, I feel like naming the game Wilds was a silly decision. But, anyway, as for the game itself, look, I did watch the trailer. I wasn't particularly excited about it. I suppose all I can say about Wilds is that I don't care. I really don't care. And it's not a very exciting review, is it? At all, actually. It's expected of anyone who knows how I feel about modern Monster Hunter. It's obviously very low effort. Not much detail to that, is there? I'm not interested, but it's true. Like, if I had any desire to play that game, I would sit here and pick apart the trailer. I would try to I would extract all the information I could from what was shown in the trailer, like all those other excited people would do. But I don't give a shit. I just don't care. If it's a good iteration in the series, I have people that I know, whose opinions I can trust to reflect my own, who will tell me if it's worth playing or not. It's not about it being an echo chamber of opinion, it's about, you know, these are people who will be able to make an informed recommendation to me personally, because they know what I value, and what they value pretty accurately intersects with what I value, and if they tell me that it's worth playing, I'll probably play it. But until that time, I'm not going to give Capcom the time of day. I'm not going to give them my money to discover whether or not they've continued to besmirch and debase my favorite game series. So that's the situation with Monster Hunter Wilds. I don't care about it. And besides, it's coming out in 2025, so I will have forgotten about its existence. Well, I had actually totally forgotten about its existence until Wonderlord brought it up. So, there you go. Like, I had already forgotten about it. And I can assure you that until such time that I keep getting those fucking sorry, Wonderlord, I don't mean to take issue with you asking the question. It's a perfectly legitimate question. But I was about to very venomously comment on the inevitable situation in the future of people in the lead up to Wilds coming out repeatedly asking me ad infinitum about what I think about Wilds and if I'm going to play it and if I'm excited about it, and, you know, that's going to remind me of the game's existence. Until that time, I'm just going to forget about it. It's irrelevant to me. So, that's my position on Monster Hunter Wilds. What I'm going to say as well, because I think this is a fair question that I think all of you would have, and that is, have I seen anything that has the potential to improve the series? What is very clear is that what is currently being done isn't working. Right? Now, I knew that. Capcom knew that. But the question would be whether or not they'd be willing to do something about it. The choice to go open world shows that they're doing something about it. That doesn't mean anything on its own. What it does show is that they're not completely tone deaf. I mean, they're definitely tone deaf. But, you know, there's a spectrum, isn't there? I'd say they are capable of at least making a change in recognition of the fact that this shit's not working. But I guess instead of trying to go backwards, which is what they would probably view it, instead of returning to what is good and what is exciting to someone like me, i.e. old Monster Hunter, they're looking to do something new, which is fine. I'm open to that. I'm open to Monster Hunter progressing, I'm open to Monster Hunter evolving, and I'm open to it becoming something different to what it was. I know it might not sound like that when I talk about modern Monster Hunter, but if it sounds like that to you, you probably weren't around in the lead up to World, when I was talking about how I felt about it, and you probably weren't around during its initial release, when I was quite excited to experience everything new that it had to offer, that it was putting on the table. Unfortunately, after I played it for a considerable length of time, I realized that it wasn't an evolution. It was literally a downgrade, in the ways that mattered, in the things that really made Monster Hunter special, for me. So, you know, I'm open to change, I really am. And yes, there is technically potential in an open world Monster Hunter being an improvement. And, well, perhaps without saying whether or not it's an improvement, perhaps I could say that it's the potential, or rather it has the potential, of being something that's worth the old Monster Hunter name. The series that it was before World. It's potentially possible that it will live up to that. But look who just failed to get in the water. That's supposed to be your area of expertise, Plesioth. You're an amphibious creature and you can't even successfully dive into the water. But yeah, that's what I was saying. Sorry, that's what I would say. It is that there is potential, but I can't speak to that. And maybe I would be able to give you a better idea as to the chances that they're going to make something better than World and Rise, if I were to take more time to analyze the information that we currently have to hand. But, as I told you initially, I don't have the interest in the game in order to do that. Part of it is just because I don't have the faith in Capcom. When I said that I'm open to change, I don't know if I'm open to Capcom doing it. I don't think I'm open to change that Capcom would bring about, because I think they've lost my trust in their ability to do that while actually being able to identify what makes Monster Hunter important and then not take that away from whatever they create, which is an evolution or a change to the way things work. I think Capcom have sort of lost that trust that I used to have before World came out. So therefore, with everything sort of piled into one, I can say pretty confidently that I no longer care, and I'm not going to start caring. It's like a defense mechanism. It's like a, coping mechanism. I say defense mechanism because it really did feel like I was in an abusive relationship with World for the first 6 months of its release. I was so desperate to like it, but simply couldn't. I even played it when it came out on PC, and I still couldn't enjoy it. Still, I did my level best to enjoy that game. Felt like an abusive relationship, right? That's why I say it's like a defense mechanism to actually ensure that I no longer bestir myself one way or the other when it comes to the next game that comes out and whether or not it's good. So there you go. Samuel, I am streaming pretty much at this time from now on. There will be exceptions to that, but this current time that I'm streaming is sort of the standard now. It's the best time for me to stream. Not right now, but in the hours leading up to now, that is going to be the window in which I live stream. Because by this point I'll be working, like at this time of day, or at least I'll be getting ready to go to work. But yeah, the time zone for me will be, Sydney time zone in the mornings. That's going to be the best window within which to live stream, and that is what you can expect. I realize that's going to be beneficial to some people and detrimental to others. All I can do is live stream at a time that works for me. That's the best I can promise you. And then I can only pray that those of you who are unable to catch me live with my new schedule will be satisfied with watching the VODs. And that's all I can hope for. Yes, that is the Yukanlos Greatsword. It's pretty cool looking. I don't think I forged it in this version of my save file. I think I had forged it in a previous version, which I've now lost. But it's pretty cool. It's not an amazing greatsword, but it is effective. And it's very cool looking, certainly. Yeah, I think I agree that Generations Ultimate is a good middle ground between an evolution within Monster Hunter, but also keeping the traditional style. But it also has to be said that Generations Ultimate, despite releasing in 2017, graphically speaking, looked about the same as a PlayStation 2 game. Now, we couldn't say that animation-wise, that's what was happening. Of course, animations had improved by that point. But Monster Hunter is a series that, in certain respects, was a series in stasis. That's what it was. It was not improving in certain ways. And you know what? That's not necessarily a bad thing. Some styles of games don't have to focus on graphics. But I also recognize that maybe some people think it's important that when a game series evolves and new iterations come out, there should be considerations given to the graphics. I think, it almost falls into that category of video game, because it's a 3D action RPG. It sort of falls into that category where graphics are important. Because it is a very visual experience. But having said that, I don't need that. I don't think that's because I'm a Luddite. I think that's because the world graphics didn't really add anything. Not to me. You know what I immediately noticed? Not everyone immediately noticed it for some reason. I think it was just the people who didn't play the games before World. But what I, and probably everyone who played the older games, immediately noticed, despite the fact that the graphics had improved, was that the weapon designs were complete shit. That's ironic, isn't it? The thing that actually was important, the weapon designs, graphically speaking, were completely downgraded, and then everything else was made to look better. But guess what I was worried about? I was worried about the weapon types looking terrible. That's a precise example of, completely misplaced priorities on the part of Capcom. And, to me, things like that, like attention to detail in terms of graphics, and also audio and the music and things like that, that has always been a calling card of Monster Hunter. And yet, it's always looked like a PS2 game. What that shows you is that, certain things don't have to change. But I also understand that some people look at it differently, and they don't want to play a game that looks like it was for the PlayStation 2 in the year of 2025 or 2035. I get that. I wouldn't excuse it for, you know, a top-down 2D game, and they're saying, it's 2025, this should be in 3D, whoa. Those people can respectfully suck a dick. But, yeah, I feel like Monster Hunter is not quite in that category. I feel like I can accept an argument for graphics needing to be improved. So, you know, that aspect of 5th and 6th generation, I can live with it. There's a lot of other things that have gone wrong, okay? So, yeah. I'm just reading the chat. If you ever have periods of time where I'm not saying anything, it's because I'm reading the chat. It's one of the reasons why being on camera is sort of essential when you're live streaming, because there will be times where I can't just be talking to you all, because I do have a chat to read. Not that I regret that. I'm glad I've got comments to read in real time. Well, you see, P-Berry, that's... I don't really think of that as a nitpick. So what P-Berry has said in the chat, which is perfectly valid, not necessarily on its own, but what it does is it speaks to a wider point that I was trying to make there. He says, all of World's monster part descriptions are the same, too, but that's a pretty niche nitpick. You can call it a nitpick, but what it actually is an indication of, like, just a changing of priorities. It's, in my opinion, it's a misplacement of priority. The amount of work that goes into things like monster part descriptions, weapon descriptions, all the different sounds that weapons make, the sounds of monsters, the music. I feel like all of these things were downgraded in World because the focus had changed to something that was a bit more immediately obvious. Which, quite frankly, mainstream gamers would be more interested in. That's what they like. They're not really interested in the deeper, subtle details, the nuance. That's not really what they're interested in. The nuance and the deeper detail is what you reserve for game series that are a bit more niche, a little bit more, in my opinion, meaningful and authentic. Something that was made with a vision and a passion in mind. That's not what mainstream gaming is, for the most part. There are obviously exceptions to that, but with each passing year, that becomes less and less characteristic of mainstream gaming and the sort of games that people enjoy. But there you go. And you can always disagree with that, but I guess the point that I'm making is that that's Capcom's perspective. And what they were willing to do away with, ultimately, is what they felt spoke to the priorities of mainstream gamers. Because I can tell you, that was the constituency they were aiming for. They weren't fucking pleasing me, or the first-gen gamers, who will only occasionally dip their toes into second generation because they are so comfortable with the earliest version of Monster Hunter that even second gen feels like a bit of a stretch for them when it comes to their personal enjoyment. It wasn't for us that World was made. Obviously, it was with a view to expanding the player base. So you can make arguments about the accuracy of my perception of the mainstream player base all you want, but that's not actually the conversation we're having. We're talking about Capcom's perspective and what they were trying to deliver to a demographic that they had in mind. And do you know what? I'd say they were dead right, personally. Alrighty. Our next quest is going to be Plesioth again. Bloody Plesioth. Eyes in the underground lake. Which is a bit of a creepy way to describe it. It's not like we're fighting him in the dark and all we can see are just these glowing eyes and then suddenly we get a hip bone in the face. That would actually be pretty frightening. What can I equip that will make this more enjoyable? Because I think we've fought quite a few Plesioth in this recording. Not on his own. This is the first quest that we're doing where it's literally just Plesioth. But I think we've fought him at least 2 or 3 times in this recording. Definitely 2 times. Could be 3. So this is either the 3rd or 4th confrontation. So what's going to make it more fun? Maybe something ranged. Yeah, I'll just bring this. This is not the final set. I do have a decoration to set into my armor piece. I think it's going to be my chest. That'll give me evade distance up, which is obviously going to be very helpful for my mobility with a heavy bowgun. And I'll bring thunder and fire shots and completely decimate this disgusting fish creature. I don't know if Monster Hunter Stories 2. I don't know if Stories 2 is underrated. I think it's well celebrated. Maybe you're suggesting that it should have more people playing it, but I don't think it was designed with that in mind, and so, you know, it's precisely I think the number of people playing it is expected and not unreasonable, and yeah. Oh, hold on, I think I need to detach it from one armor piece and put it in another, so I just need to remember what it is it? I can't remember. Maybe I could just go through all of them and hope that I can find it. It's a Jumping Jewel 3, I think. I would make multiple, but obviously the problem is that it requires some Black Fatalis G rank item in order to forge it. It's ridiculous. I used to be able to remember, I think... Where is it? I swear it's a chest piece. Maybe I do actually have it in my inventory and I'm just totally blind. No, I don't have it. So where the fuck... Where have I attached it? Rathalos... Yeah, there it is. How did I miss that? Fuck's sake. Flying Jewel. I think it's because I was looking for Jumping Jewel. But it's Flying Jewel, for goodness sake. So there you go. Bit of work. But we got there in the end. As for Monster Hunter 2 stories... Why do I keep saying that? Monster Hunter Stories 2. Yeah, Monster Hunter 2, stories. Monster Hunter Stories 2, I don't have time for that. You know, I've got other things I'd rather play. I don't want to play a thing that is, you know, Monster Hunter spin-off. I don't need that. I'd like a Monster Hunter game in the mainline series that I actually enjoy. And, you know, I've got other things that I can play that are not Monster Hunter in any sort of way that I would enjoy more than Stories 2. Stories 2 might be good. I don't know, however, if it's my kind of game. I was definitely open to giving it a try when it came out. I knew enough about the original Stories to know that I wasn't going to play that, but Stories 2 looked like a very different sort of game. I was interested to give it a try. I just never got around to it, and look, as it stands, I don't really see a reason to give it a try right now. Eventually I'm sure I will, but no, not right now. Not that I was told to, or recommended to, but yeah, I've only ever heard good things about it. That's what I'll say. Alright, I think we're just going to go immediately. I don't believe that I'm departing without another person or anything like that. Nope, I think we're good to go. We're going to drop this thing really quick. I think there's... yeah, we've got 3 people going ranged. And we are all very well equipped to basically lock this monster in one position and just beat on it until it doesn't know its head from its asshole. So, looking forward to that. How long have I been live for? 2 hours and 43 minutes. Well, bloody hell. I reckon that will suffice. This will probably be the last recording. The last recording. Yes, my final live stream. No, this is going to be the last hunt that I do. Sudden dramatic announcement. Last Doomlink live stream. Alright. I didn't bring sonic bombs, I apologize for that. I really should be doing that. Just hasn't been crossing my mind. At this stage, I'm just glad that I brought ammunition. I know that sounds pretty sad, but yeah. If I'm able to get that much done, that's just about good enough for me. Fuck off. I'll try to line up with this tram. He's unlikely to move from this position once we're standing right here, but... Oh, there we go. And he's going to miss the trap, it looks like. I don't quite know what to say, except that I'm marginally disappointed. Yeah, this will probably be the last stream before the holidays, as you described it. Oh, we've got to sleep. I don't know if I've got any bombs on hand. I do, actually. Alright. One of those rare sleep bombing opportunities in Mulsanna Freedom Unite. Watch it while it's happening. Blink and you'll miss it. Etc. Poor bastard, that must have hurt. There we go, he's finally in the damn trap. It's actually sad to watch him flailing around like this. No, it's not sad, it's actually just funny. I shouldn't be sympathizing with this creature. But those days when he would beat on me, when I had, you know, just basic equipment, those days are so long ago now that I don't have that hatred in my heart for him anymore. Not anymore. I don't think I have any hatred for any monsters anymore. Although there must be exceptions to what I just said, surely. What monsters do I really hate? Lucent Naga Cougar, I still hate that guy. I don't think I'll ever get over that monster. Speaking of which, I do have to go and play some 3 Ultimate. I can't forget that. Do expect some 3 Ultimate. I do have the console set up. I do want to play it. I want to make full use of the servers up until their closure. So please expect some 3 Ultimate. Because your expectation will hopefully drive me to get on and just give it a try. I don't know how many people are playing. I really don't. I would hope that the announcement of the closure of the servers would encourage more people to play while they can. Makes it easier for me to find a group to play with as well. But we'll have to have a look and see. I just don't know. I can always hit up Yuli. He's always an option, but... yeah. I didn't even need my flaming shot. Very good. Yeah, I might try to get Yuli on board. At least that way I've got one person that I know will be there to play with when I'm live. I just have to try and coordinate that with his schedule, which might not be as easy as it sounds. Yeah, I forgot about that. Those fucking invisible needles. I got hit by Lucent Naga Cougar's poison needles, or thorns. I think I prefer the word thorn to needle. I got hit by some Lucent Naga Cougar thorns, and they were literally invisible. They did not appear on the screen. It was really bad. I don't think I've had that happen before, but when it did happen, I did catch it on camera. It was pretty egregious. It's bad enough when you can see them. Imagine if that was a feature of the fight, where sometimes they would actually be invisible. Ugh. Well, now that the sun's out, might go to the beach. What? What did he just say? Yeah, well, I live right on the beach now, so... Normally I fucking wouldn't, but... Yeah, when you live, like, 2 minutes from it, you kind of just go, I guess. Whereas otherwise you just wouldn't make the time, but... It's not much time out of my day anymore. Anyway, I do thank you all for watching. I will see you when I'm next live, which will hopefully not be too far distant in the future. We'll see. When can I... Well, look, I'll try to record on the 26th, which will be in 2 days' time. So around this time in 2 days, perhaps I'll be able to record. We'll see. I'm not making any promises, but I will endeavour to record on that day. It's been good to record again. Obviously, I haven't done it lately. But, yeah, here we are in Freedom Unite. I'll try to do a different game next time. Obviously, the best case scenario would be 3 Ultimate, but can't make any promises with that game either, because that purely depends on how many people are going to be there for me to play with while live. I'm not going to be doing any solo play in that game, thank you very much. I'll see you all next time I'm live, and I bid you all farewell for now. Bye-bye.